We already have this unalienable right. It doesn't need to be in the Constitution. It doesn't belong in the Constitution. The Constitution is a limit on the government. It's not defining our rights. But if we put it in there, then it will be defining our rights. And guess what? There's a whole method that they use to interpret the Constitution. The whole statutory interpretation and rules and everything else, how to interpret the Constitution. There's standards, you know, from highest standard to the lowest standard. Do you want them to go through that to interpret your right that you already have, that they're supposed to be protecting? That's the kind of question you need to ask. Okay, now we have this wonderful Constitution, when we have all these problems, what do we do about it? What can you do about it? How do we stop the enactment of a treaty? It seems like an overwhelming task, too big for one individual. But I say, never underestimate the power of a single individual, especially a lone mom hell-bent on protecting her child, because that's not going to fly. Individuals have overcome daunting odds before in our history to accomplish amazing goals. After all, the Founding Fathers were simply a handful of individuals who met in a tavern, lamented the injustices of their time, and took action on their own. They started a whole country. Certainly, individuals today can take action to prevent the Senate from infringing on so fundamental a right as this. How many millions of individual parents are there in this country who stand ready to protect their children? They could be a mighty force indeed. After all, their task is not as daunting as starting a whole country. They only need to convince 60 or so people in the Senate to prevent the treaty from being ratified. 60 or more people, that's all you need to convince, and there are millions of us. That process needs to begin now if we're going to retain our rights. It's never too late. What can you do? First and foremost, inform yourself. Read the Constitution, think about it. Read your state constitution, think about that. Read your statutes. As boring as all of this is going to be, as tedious as it is, please believe me, it's well worth your time, because your legislator probably hasn't read it. Okay? Your legislator stood there, took an oath to uphold and defend it, probably has not ever sat down and read it from cover to cover. I guarantee you, you will know more than your legislator if you take the time to read the United States Constitution, your state constitution, and any laws that you have an issue with, whether it's homeschooling or what. Look it up. It's so easy today online to look up that law, that statute, and read it, because you know what government officials really love to do? To make you do what they want you to do? They will take a phrase from that statute and say, you need to do this. And guess what? If you actually read the whole sentence or the whole statute, it doesn't even mean that they're telling you to do. But they were told that that's what it meant, so that's, you know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've sat down with state legislators and said, did you know that this is what it says? Oh, really? You know? I mean, you literally will know more than your legislators. So please, that's one very important thing. And then after you've informed yourself, go inform your friends, your family, and tell them. Most importantly, then call up your legislator. I don't know how it works in New Hampshire, but I know in Connecticut you can pick up the phone and call your state legislator and invite them over to your house for coffee. And 9 times out of 10, they may come over. Or they may say, well, come up to my office and we'll talk. You know why? Because if you live in their district, they know you took the time to make a phone call, and you're a voter. And if you took the time to make a phone call on a particular issue, there's probably 10 or 11 other people in my district that care about that issue. So they're going to want to meet you and find out what's going on, so they'll get reelected. Okay? It's very easy to pick up the phone and do that, or to email them, or both. Or to meet them when they come, you know, to town, or in the grocery store, or the next time they have an event. Go up and talk to them. And then, after you do that, you give them the copy of the statute that you're complaining about, or you want them to look at. You make it easy for them, because they're not going to look it up. They're not going to read it unless you put it in their hands. Okay? Now I have up there an action plan. All of this is detailed in there. And there's lots more ways that you can do. But I'm saying to you that you have the power. It's we the people. You have the power. You can, even though it sounds like a big, huge thing, International Convention on the Rights of the Child, UN Convention. How am I going to stop that? It's 60 people. You know? Call them up. And your state legislators can do some of the work for you. After you've educated them in your state, you say, can you make a phone call to Congressman so-and-so or Senator so-and-so, mainly Senator, and tell them this? Can you arrange a meeting with us, with that person's aide, so we can discuss this? It can be very helpful that way to get to the federal congressmen and senators. So it's extremely important. One person can make a huge difference. And 2 or 3 families together can make an even better difference. Finally, and most importantly, I would say to you something from one of my favorite movies: never give up, never surrender. Okay? Our founding fathers didn't, and neither should we. And together we can succeed. So thank you very much. If you have any questions.